Hello, English language learners. This is Alan, your English coach, here with another installment of Pronunciation Practice, a series of short videos to help English learners improve, or perfect even, their English pronunciation. You'll recall, speaking of pronunciation, you'll recall that last week we learned about an important sound in English which we call schwa, which does not have a single particular letter attached to it, right? Certain letters can take on the sound schwa in English, and that's what we're going to look at today and in future parts of this little mini series that we're doing on schwa. So the schwa sound, as you'll recall from last week, is a simple There, I just did it, It sounds like a little caveman sound, doesn't it? It's very easy to pronounce. However, now I want to talk about one place anyway where you use the schwa sound, and that is when we add a D or an ED to the end of regular verbs. Now, when do we do that? As you well know, we do that when we put verbs, regular verbs, into the past. So, for example, the word bead. Bead, when you sprinkle water on a waxy or oily surface, it beads up. Okay, if we put that into the past, we add an ED and we have the word beaded. Notice now we have two syllables. Where we had bead in the past tense, we now have beaded, two syllables. That's because the ED at the end of the verb, yes, is pronounced schwa plus d. So bead, d. Another word in which we would hear that schwa sound in the ED is the word rate. R-A-T-E. When you evaluate something, you rate it. You rate the thing. But if you did that in the past, you rated. Okay, you rated. Now that E that used to be silent now takes on the sound of schwa. In rate, the last sound that we hear is a T sound. But in rated, in the past tense, that E takes on a schwa sound and we get rated. Rated. Now here's a fun fact, and this is going to help you a lot in pronouncing regular verbs in the past. The only verbs where you hear that schwa are in verbs where the last sound is a T or a D. Not the last letter, because notice rate does not end with a T or a D, it ends with an E, but the last sound you hear in rate is the T sound. So, anytime you find a regular English verb, because we do have a lot of irregular English verbs which are put into the past in a very different way, you will pronounce an schwa plus the D sound, and that will give your verb an extra syllable. Rate, rated. Bead, beaded. Hate, hated. Weed, weeded. Raid, raided. So your job is to listen for verbs in the past in which the ED is pronounced like schwa, d, id. Listen for those, and you'll notice that in every single instance, the sound that you hear at the end of the regular verb before you add the ED is either a t or a d. Okay? So listen for those, and notice them when you have to use them. Make sure that you're pronouncing that id sound after you've added it onto a verb in the past tense that ends with t or d. Please drop any questions below. I'm happy to answer those. I'm also happy to take suggestions on future installments of pronunciation practice. Meanwhile, I do hope that you have a glorious week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.